So guys, this should be a fun one. They are the best aliens. Why they're the best aliens? Well, they're my favorites, true, okay, but I'm going to be pinpointing and focusing. The focus of this is much more about the use in Star Trek, meaning how useful, representative even, dare I say, how meaningful and how sort of dynamic. In other words, these aliens, these four, and there's many, of course. Hey, there's dozens. And these are not my favorite of favorites, so to speak. But in terms of Star Trek, why they're the best, why these four races are the best, pretty evident, pretty easy. And if you're a Star Trek fan, you think you'll agree, I hope. Let's see. All right, first off, the Klingons, okay? Probably, no, you know what? I'm going to say that the Klingons are the most identifiable Star Trek alien race. They just are. They are. Come on. All right, we can say Vulcans. I'll get to Vulcans in a bit. But I would say Klingons, and I would dare say also the most popular. So you could say they're even number one. I'm not doing any, one to four, my top four. I'm just saying that starting off with Klingons, and I'd say they're the most popular and or the most recognizable of all Star Trek aliens. So why are they so good? Well, we know as fans, they're full of honor and nobility, but full of passion, anger, and combat. And so this, rightfully so, right? It represents the passion, the anger, the combat, the fight in everybody. You don't have to be a Klingon. You could be a great warrior anywhere from anything, right? And we know basically they come sort of from, of course, samurai, I believe Native Americans. There's a couple cultures of all probably, I guess, samurai, their bat'leth and their honor and sort of, okay. But I know some from Native Americans as well. So the Klingons, number one in many ways, not doing a numerical order, but I would say they're probably the most popular for being the best. All right, Vulcans. Okay, now they might be my favorite. Certainly, well, I should say Spock, right? And of course, who's the most popular, recognizable, identifiable Vulcan is Spock. Okay, now of course, technically he's a half Vulcan. His dad, Sarek, is Vulcan, and his mom, Amanda, is human, right? So, but he adheres much more toward the Vulcan discipline and logic, and Kolinar. He went to the Kolinar in the motion picture, but thankfully didn't complete it because he had to save our butts from Deidre. All right, so the Vulcans, of course, are logic and reason. Logical, reason, intellectual. The rationality of us, the coolness, I'd say, not even to say being really intelligent, super intelligent, or intellectual. They're the coolness. They suppress our emotions. People should understand and realize they do not lack emotions. They simply control them. Keep your passions under control, Dr. McCoy. They suppress or control or mediate them. There you go. They level them out. They're leveled out. And of course, with Kulinaric, it's all, logic just takes over, and then you're almost like a thinking machine or like a living machine, logic machine. You're a living AI, whatever. Okay. So we love them, right? Ferengi. Now, I might get called out on this a bit and challenged, but I really believe that in terms of humor, the funny, I mean, you come on, you can't get much funnier than the Ferengi. You can have great dry jokes with the Vulcans, really kind of raunchy, rowdy, bawdy jokes maybe with the Klingons. The Ferengi are representative to me. They're symbolic of the greed, the lust, desires of humanity. Because obviously all these aliens are metaphors for human emotions and pursuits and intellect. So you look at the greed, the profit motive of Ferengis and the rules of acquisition. They want more. They want to keep acquiring. They're the ultimate corporate, mergers and hawks and dragons, and they want to keep acquiring. But the funniness, of course, in that, and then in their lust and desires, and of course, it doesn't play well today that it never has, but the sexism, we're keeping their women nude and, at home and such. Though I know that's pretty much been revised, I think, or certainly was challenged. All right, the Ferengi. So finally, we get to the Borg. Now, the Borg, I don't want to put numerical values, okay, but the Borg might be the very best of all. Why? Because, well, they're like the nightmare, right? They're the nightmare of Star Trek, the horror of Star Trek, zombies, sort of a collective, the assimilation metaphors. People have said sort of communistic, a drab, wearing the same sort of colors like the old style communist, socialism. I mean, you get political, but I look at them much more sort of zombies. They're almost like the undead, because once you get assimilated, yeah, you're still alive, but is that living? You're pretty much kind of like zombied out. You're walking like a zombie. Walk like an Egyptian or walk like a zombie. And that's the Borg. And what's really frightening, of course, and twisted is the alien species all could become Borg, right? Everyone, every alien race can become a Borg and be assimilated. Well, not species 8472, if I recall, right? Species 8472 can't, or they have a really tough time doing it. And then, of course, Janeway, you know, got together with the Borg and joined up, and they got the nanoprobes, and we know, okay. But for the most part, anyone, any race can be assimilated. So it's like, well, I don't want to be in your club. I don't want to be a part of it, but you got to be, because once those tubules, once those vampire-like fangs and tubes go into you, boom, you're going to be a Borg drone. He'll make an excellent drone, as Data said in First Contact, right? Okay, so what do you think? Give us your feedback. Give us your thoughts. Look, this is not definitive, and certainly there's other, races and cases to be made for other races. But in terms of what I sketched out here, the passion and the anger, or the combat of the Klingons, the coolness and the intellect of the Vulcans, the humor of the Ferengi, and then the horror of the Borg. So when you're dealing with those races and you have that great spring, a wellspring to draw from, that's why Star Trek's aliens are so great, and these are some of my favorite and some of the best. What do you think? Give us your feedback. Hope you're enjoying. Hope you're subscribing. See you soon.